You think it's just a regular conversation, words exchanged politely, a smile here and there. But beneath those words, her body is speaking a far more ancient language, one that most men never learn to understand. While you're caught up in her sentences, something deeper is happening. Powerful, hidden forces are broadcasting signals of desire she may not even consciously recognize. These signals are not loud. They are subtle, silent, often invisible to the untrained eye. But once you see them, you never unsee them. This isn't about manipulation or cheap tricks. It's about perception. It's about decoding a truth she might hide with her words, but her body could never mask. Most men don't lose their chance because they say the wrong thing. They miss it because they don't notice what's already being offered. A woman's attraction doesn't come with clear instructions. There's no announcement, no flashing sign. Instead, it shows up as fragments of a puzzle, scattered across posture, movement, and gaze. Her body whispers a message shaped by centuries of biology and evolution, and that message is rarely direct. That's why you have to learn how to see it, not with hungry eyes, but with attentive ones. Because if you can understand what her body, her tone, and her small involuntary behaviors are saying, you can finally stop guessing and start connecting. One of the most essential forces behind female body language in moments of desire is something I call the primal invitation. It's the first shift, the earliest cue, and it often happens before a single flirtatious word is spoken. It shows up in how her body opens, literally. Her posture expands, her arms uncross, her shoulders roll back, her chest lifts slightly, her legs uncross, her torso faces you directly, and suddenly she looks more alive. This isn't just about confidence, it's instinct, rooted deep in our evolutionary past. This open body posture signals safety, receptiveness, and a non-verbal welcome. She doesn't feel threatened. In fact, she wants you to notice her, wants you to come closer. A closed posture is like armor. It shields, it distances. But an open posture is an invitation. It's a message written not in ink, but in bone and muscle. You are welcome here. Even the way she positions her weight can send a signal. A slight arch in the back, a hip shifted to the side. These are not random. They highlight femininity, emphasize form, and unconsciously display the traits associated with youth and fertility. Signals that have triggered male attention for thousands of years. And then there's the space between you. It's easy to overlook, but vital to observe. If you're speaking with her and she keeps her bag in her lap, holds her drink in front of her chest, or keeps something, anything between you, that's a form of distance. A barrier. A subconscious wall. But if slowly those objects begin to disappear, her bag goes to the side, her drink moves to the table, her arms relax, that's her clearing the path. She's removing obstacles. And while she may not even realize she's doing it, her body is saying what her mouth won't. I want to connect. Imagine you're at a lounge. You see her sitting at a table, arms crossed, bag shielding her side, closed off. But as you begin to talk, something shifts. Her arms slowly unfold. She adjusts her seat to face you. Her bag drops to the floor. The space between you is no longer guarded. Nothing needs to be said. Her body has already spoken. And that's the primal invitation. The magic isn't just in how open she is, it's in the transition. The before and after. She wasn't open to everyone. She opened because of you. That's the key. But body language isn't limited to movement. The eyes tell their own story, sometimes louder than words ever could. This brings us to the second force, the dopamine gaze. It's named for the chemical reaction happening behind the scenes, deep in the brain. When we see something, or someone, we're attracted to, dopamine floods the system, triggering physical responses we can't control. And one of the most telling responses is pupil dilation. That's right, her pupils widen. Not because she wants them to, but because her nervous system demands it. You won't notice it in a blink. But under consistent lighting, if you see her pupils look unusually large, that's not just lighting or mood. It could be arousal. It's a flare shot from the subconscious, one she can't fake and probably doesn't even know is visible. But the dopamine gaze doesn't end with dilation. There's a rhythm to it, a ritual, a moment of eye contact that lingers just a second too long, a smile that curls softly at the corner of her lips. And then the glance breaks. She looks down or away, only to return to you again, eyes locking for another beat. This pattern, gaze, look away, return, is an ancient dance, one that invites connection without pressure. It says, I see you. I want you to see me too. You've probably seen this before, but didn't recognize its meaning. Maybe it happened after you made her laugh. Maybe she didn't say much, but her eyes found yours, stayed, then dropped, then found you again. That wasn't a coincidence. That was biology pulling the strings. Then we come to something even more fascinating. Mirroring. The third force is the subconscious mirror. It's exactly what it sounds like. Her body, without even realizing it, begins to reflect yours. You lean forward, and she follows a moment later. You pick up your drink, and she reaches for hers. You adjust your posture, and she echoes you. This phenomenon isn't just mimicry. It's known in psychology as behavioral synchrony, the chameleon effect. It's how humans connect without words, and it's one of the clearest signs of rapport. When a woman mirrors you, she's syncing with your energy. Her body is saying, we're alike. I'm comfortable with you. We're in rhythm. And the most fascinating part, she doesn't know she's doing it. This effect is hard to fake. No one can consciously mirror someone's tone, gestures, and energy for minutes at a time without deep connection driving it. But when you're in sync, it just happens. You sit back, so does she. You laugh, her shoulders relax. You speak softly, her voice lowers to match. Want to test it? Try this. During a conversation, subtly run a hand through your hair or touch your face. Then observe. If she mirrors the gesture within a minute or so, she's not just being polite. Her subconscious has locked onto you. She feels safe. She feels aligned. And her brain is signaling something her mouth may not yet admit. The magic of these signals is in their invisibility. You won't find them announced. They won't be stated aloud. But they're real, tangible, ancient. A woman's attraction is not a billboard. It's a current. And if you learn to feel it, you'll never be in the dark again. The body may signal interest in silence, but when desire deepens, the gestures become more intimate, more revealing. And that brings us to the fourth force, the vulnerability signal. At first glance, these behaviors seem like nervous habits, harmless, even unconscious. But look closer, and you'll notice they're not random. These are evolutionary echoes, preening rituals rooted in attraction. They're her body's way of both calming itself and sending out a signal. I want to be seen. Start with the neck. When a woman tilts her head slightly, brushes her fingers over her collarbone, or exposes the side of her neck, she's revealing one of the most sensitive, defenseless areas of her body. It's not just an aesthetic gesture, it's primal. Exposing the neck is a display of trust, a biological gesture that whispers, I feel safe near you. And that safety, that sense of being protected instead of threatened, is the foundation of female desire. Then there's hair play, twirling it, flipping it, running her fingers through it in slow, deliberate strokes. On the surface, it may look like grooming, but what it truly is is signaling. Healthy hair has long been associated with youth, fertility, and vitality. By drawing attention to it, she's highlighting traits her biology knows are desirable. More than that, she's framing her face, guiding your attention to her eyes, her smile, drawing you in with soft, subtle gestures that bypass logic and speak directly to your instincts. And if her hands move toward her lips, gently touching, licking, or even biting, that's another layer of the vulnerability signal. Arousal can cause a dry mouth, yes, but the act of wetting the lips has the added effect of enhancing their fullness and color, both subconscious indicators of sensuality. A lower lip caught between her teeth, a fingertip brushing against the corner of her mouth. These aren't meaningless. They're magnetic, and they often happen when her attention is fixed on you. But it doesn't stop at the face. Sometimes it's the way she touches her own arm, wrist, or leg. Slow, rhythmic strokes. Casual at first glance, but underlined with something deeper. These gestures do two things at once. They calm her inner nervous energy, and they silently map out her body's most sensitive areas, offering an unspoken invitation to closeness. Think of it as a non-verbal simulation. Her touch is saying, "This is where I feel, and maybe where I'd like to be touched, eventually, by you." Context, of course, is everything. She might flip her hair because she's bored, or touch her lips because she's thinking. But it's the pattern that matters. The cluster. If these actions multiply when she's around you, especially when paired with deep eye contact or open body posture, they become more than habit. They transform into a choreography of desire. And that brings us to the final force, the proximity best. Of all the hidden cues, this one is the most tangible. It's physical, measurable, and decisive. Attraction always moves closer. That's its nature. When a woman feels that unmistakable pull towards someone, she'll begin to collapse the space between you. It might start with a lean, her torso edging toward you mid-conversation, not because she can't hear you, but because closeness feels good. She may enter your personal space slowly, subtly, testing the atmosphere. Watch her feet and hips. Even when her face is turned elsewhere, if her lower body stays oriented toward you, that's not chance, it's attraction. She's placing herself in your orbit, deliberately voting with her body where words refuse to tread. And then, there's touch. The first touch is always the threshold. Once crossed, it opens the door to everything else. But for many women, it begins small. She brushes her hand against yours accidentally. She laughs and taps your arm. These touches are not always calculated, but they're rarely meaningless. They are subconscious probes, her nervous system reaching out to test. How do you respond? Do you lean in, flinch, freeze? Your reaction determines what happens next. If you receive the touch with presence and ease, she'll feel the shift. Her body will remember, and it will grant you more access. You'll begin to notice her touches linger a little longer. Her fingers might graze your shoulder, then stay. Her knee may rest against yours beneath the table and not pull away. These are not passive behaviors. These are active green lights. Her body is no longer just inviting, it's engaging. This test of proximity is often the culmination of the other forces. She opens up, mirrors you, gazes deeper, and grows vulnerable. And then she moves close. Not by chance, but by choice. And when she does, it's her final, clearest message. I want to feel you near me. But here's where men often falter, not from insensitivity, but from over-analysis. They spot a single cue and rush to interpret it. Her arms were crossed. Does she hate me? She touched her neck. Does she want me? This is where understanding becomes essential, because no signal lives in isolation. One gesture by itself could mean anything, or nothing. She might cross her arms because she's cold, not because she's guarded. She might lick her lips because they're dry, not because she's turned on. The power lies in clusters, combinations, context. So instead of obsessing over each move, zoom out. Ask, are multiple signals surfacing together? Is she leaning in while her eyes linger on yours? Is she mirroring your movements while playing with her hair? Is she brushing her leg against yours while touching her lips and smiling softly? That is your answer, not in a single sign, but in the symphony they form when layered together. To read a woman's body language is not to become a behavior analyst. It's to become present, attuned, responsive. It's not about checking off boxes or memorizing tricks. It's about feeling the shift in energy, the change in tone, the subtle escalation in closeness. It's about becoming aware of what she feels but hasn't yet put into words. Her mouth might hesitate, her brain might stall, but her body will always move toward what it wants. And once you learn to notice that movement, you won't need to ask, is she into me? You'll already know. Attraction, when it's real, doesn't hide for long. It leaks through her body, seeps into her voice, and pulses through every micro-expression she doesn't even know she's giving. And once you've trained yourself to see it, really see it, it changes the way you move through the world. The silence between words becomes loud. The spaces between glances become meaningful. You begin to trust something more ancient than logic, intuition sharpened by awareness. When a woman sends these signals, she's not always aware of the full message. Her body acts first. Her words catch up later. And that's why most men miss the moment, because they're listening only to what she says and ignoring the far more honest language of what she does. Every primal invitation, every dopamine gaze, every subconscious mirror, every vulnerable gesture, and every proximity test is a layer of a message building in intensity. It's not performance, it's not manipulation. It's instinct, deeply encoded and silently powerful. But don't mistake this knowledge for a game plan. You're not collecting signs like trophies. You're not here to decode a woman like a puzzle. You're here to connect, to see her fully, to meet her where she already is. That's the difference between manipulation and mastery. Mastery doesn't force. It recognizes. It responds. It allows desire to unfold in its own rhythm. And with that recognition comes responsibility. Because reading these signals is a kind of superpower. It gives you access to truths most people overlook. But like any power, it must be handled with care. Attraction is not permission. Interest is not consent. Just because her body is opening doesn't mean her heart is ready. Just because she moves closer doesn't mean she wants to move further. And just because you see her signals doesn't mean she sees them herself. Sometimes her biology speaks louder than her awareness. That's why patience matters. Presence matters. Respect matters. Your job isn't to assume. Your job is to stay tuned in, to listen with your eyes, to remain grounded in your own presence while allowing hers to unfold naturally. The point isn't to rush ahead, but to move in sync. True connection happens when both people feel safe, seen, and understood. Not just on the surface, but in the space between words. So what happens next? Now that you know the 5 hidden forces behind a woman's body language of attraction, your real work begins. You start observing, not just women, but people in general. You sit at cafes and notice posture shifts. You watch subtle mirroring at play between friends. You see the difference between a social smile and a magnetic gaze. You begin to see how people reveal what they feel, even when they don't say it. And as your awareness grows, so does your confidence. But it's not the loud, arrogant confidence you've seen before. It's quiet, rooted. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't chase. It simply sees and acts accordingly. When you recognize the primal invitation, you approach with ease. When you notice the dopamine gaze, you hold it. When you feel her mirroring you, you relax into it. When her vulnerability shows itself, you respond with care. And when she closes the space, you meet her there, without pressure, without expectation, just presence. You'll also notice when the signals aren't there, when she stays closed off, when the gaze never lingers, when the distance never closes, and you'll stop taking it personally, because now you're fluent in a language most men never learn to hear. And that fluency allows you to move on without bitterness or doubt, because you're no longer chasing what isn't there. You're aligning with what is. This shift doesn't just change your love life, it changes your energy. Women feel it. You become the man who sees, not just looks, the one who listens, not just hears, the one who connects without trying to impress. That energy is rare. And because it's rare, it's valuable. It draws people in. Not because you say the perfect thing, but because you say less and notice more. Understanding female body language isn't about decoding lust like a detective. It's about witnessing it like an artist. Feeling the energy behind each movement, seeing the poetry in a glance. It's about recognizing that desire is not always loud. Often, it's soft. It's still. It hides in plain sight, waiting for someone attuned enough to feel it. You don't need to chase chemistry. You need to cultivate awareness. When you stop seeking signs and start noticing shifts, subtle posture changes, eye flickers, lingering touches, mirrored gestures, that's when attraction becomes effortless. Not because you've mastered tactics, but because you've mastered perception. And perception allows you to move not with strategy, but with presence. So remember the 5 hidden forces, the primal invitation, when her body opens to you without her realizing, the dopamine gaze, when her pupils widen and her eyes lock just a second too long, the subconscious mirror, when her body echoes yours, sinking breath for breath, the vulnerability signal, when she touches her neck, her lips, her hair, not to impress, but to soothe and to invite. And the proximity test, when she crosses the invisible line and initiates touch, not loudly, but with unmistakable intent. These forces aren't scripts to follow, they're movements to feel. They're the music under the words, the rhythm beneath the conversation. They don't tell you what to do, they show you what's true. And once you know what's true, everything gets simpler. You stop playing guessing games. You stop wondering what she meant. You stop questioning your own instincts, because you've tuned yourself to something deeper. And that depth is what allows you to navigate attraction without anxiety, without fear, without need. This is the hidden world behind her body language. Not a game, not a test, a map. One she draws without knowing. One you learn to read with practice. One that, when read well, leads not just to seduction, but to connection. So now, take what you've learned and look closer. The next time you're in a conversation, don't just listen to what she says. Watch, feel, notice. The body always speaks first. And when you learn to hear it, the whole world opens. Attraction isn't a mystery, it's a language, and now you speak it.